Well, everyone, welcome to another matchup in Australia, and this time we get to bring you a Division 5 matchup. While these people are in the lowest division of Reddit League, that by no means they're unskilled or not able to put up a good show, but it will be challenging in Australia for them to do anything. We've got a really good one, Bombadil and Soundbite. Both of them have been in this competition before, but Soundbite did have to requalify after a season. So we'll take a look at their stats, and what can you tell us about these two, Calamity?
Yeah, they're at least Soundbite, I can tell you, is a much better player now than he was back when he got relegated the first time around. He's had some good showings in the first 3 weeks. Still not like to a level where he's a favorite for promotion or anything, but he does have the ability at least to manage to stay up in this division, as long as nothing goes horribly wrong in the coming weeks. And Bombadil, I've been a bit disappointed by, I guess, this season so far. He has one win, not a win, a draw with a bonus point, and a perfect score. But other than that, he's not been doing too well. Both in Poland and in Jordan, he wasn't in the top half of the point scoring position, so no bonus points either, which leaves him pretty low in the table. And he did last season have to, I think he was in the relegation playoff games, and managed to just about avoid getting relegated out of Reddit League. But this season, it's looking a bit tougher because he was also in a division that had 2 red cards last season. So essentially, there was only one direct relegation spot, and that person kind of gave up after like half the season. So there wasn't really any danger, but this season, it's looking a bit more tough.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the biggest thing we see in Division 5 is just consistency. Like you can see both of them have either a perfect game or near perfect game, but then their average point is also quite low, which means they're scoring like well below 20,000 at times as well, to bring that average down, only being 3 weeks into the season. So we'll see what they can do in Australia, if they can maybe boost their chances of survival in this one. Yeah, but Australia can be very difficult. We've seen in our other matchups, Calamity, we can have very nice urban areas, but also crazy rural highways in the middle of nowhere that are, 10 kilometers of straight road.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't necessarily even know what you prefer because sometimes the urban locations are super nice. Sometimes you're stuck in some suburb in, I don't know, Melbourne, and you just cannot figure out which city you're in. And the same pretty much goes for rural roads through the middle of nowhere. Like you might be on some big highway that's like the only significant road that goes through this region, but you just can't tell where it is because there are no signs. Sometimes it's really obvious based on the landscape. Sometimes you find great signs that are like, hey, there are 17 cities that I'm going to give you all the kilometers to, and you just look back at where you came from.
Yeah, very nice. So yeah, lots of different kinds of challenges in this one. So let's jump right in and see how they do in round number 1. At least we'll start off with one of those nice highways.
There are some houses on the horizon though, so it's not that in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, definitely smoother internet for Bombadil here. Soundbite having a little bit of trouble.
It can be hard to tell sometimes. His internet could be completely fine, and it's just a recording software that's not recording it very smoothly. Because it doesn't look like if his internet was actually this slow, he wouldn't be able to move so fast. I think it's just on the recording side of things where it may have gone slightly wrong.
Very good observation. Well, they started off in the same direction, but Bombadil quickly turned around and is now headed northeast. Soundbite will tough it out and keep heading southwest. But so far, neither of them.
Yeah, neither of them find anything. Both valid strategies. Especially if you've got 5 minutes, it might be good to just check out both directions because it's quite.
Town.
Yeah, it would be quite annoying if you've missed a massive clue like 2 minutes in the other direction.
Okay, so we've got Morgan River Port, so that gives you quite a few clues to go off of, maybe.
Yeah,
there's probably gonna be plenty of rivers in the town, but in the
somewhere near a river.
Yeah,
don't think that necessarily narrows it down too much.
just based on this geography, are we looking sort of like Northwest Territory or kind of more in the middle
No,
of the
it's
country, or
the soil is a bit too like white, I'm gonna call it. It has like a little bit of a red, like a little bit of red, but it's too white to be too far north. So we're looking at something that's pretty desolate, but in the southern half of the country.
okay.
Um, I feel like it's also, well, if it were in the if it were in Western Australia, you'd probably recognize town names because there aren't many towns over there. Um, so at that point, you're kind of left with South Australia and Victoria.
There we go.
And
Adelaide,
there's a nice sign.
160. To the west, B81.
Bombadil. There's Adelaide. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah. So turning around, which definitely has paid off for him so far. He's trying to get that highway name, but it's going to be blurred out wherever he gets a chance at it.
I don't think it's important to get the name of the road. I think it would be more important to just look for the other cities or towns on that. He's looking quite far away and at a bit too far of a zoom level.
Yeah,
So
a little bit closer. In the meantime, Soundbite has turned around and will head into the city. Using his buttons to zoom in and out, so maybe his scroll wheel is not cooperating with him.
sign just doesn't want to unblur. He could just go to the other side, yeah.
There we go. And there's that town name, but he's going to want to head up to catch this sign that Bombadil has if he wants a good shot.
Yeah, that's really annoying if you have to zoom in with like these buttons because that is costing you a massive amount of time.
Yeah. Seems like it's working now. Scroll wheel is behaving nicely. I think
Yeah.
maybe he was trying to jump in between points, or he thought he was zooming in too far and he wanted just one delicate zoom, so he used the button to make sure, but
I'm gonna hope he doesn't know that he can zoom with the mouse wheel. That would be
Well, he
Anyway,
does. He uses the mouse wheel on the map, but like in the actual game,
yeah.
he's not, which he maybe is a little confused. I don't know. In the meantime, Bombadil really hasn't been able to piece a whole lot together. Still
He's
looking
heavily struggling with this, yeah. I mean, Kapunda's right there on his map. Well, you scrolled past it now.
Yeah.
But it was there for a second.
Yeah, and Soundbite rather is
There's Morgan as
way
well.
off in the other half of the country, but does realize we're somewhere towards the southern area, but not quite far enough south, and it'll be the east-west that really messes with him. 177 points. I think he just missed that nice sign that Bombadil had, and even that, Bombadil couldn't do too much with it, 3,621. He had everything he really kind of needed, but again, scrolling through the vastness of Australian outback could be a bit tricky at times.
Yeah, but that was essentially a massive waste of points for Bombadil there because he had like 2 or 3 minutes to find any of those 3 towns really, or the road number or the town that they were in, and he just couldn't find any of it, and it cost him 1,400 points, and we'll see if that comes back to bite him later.
Yeah, we'll jump into round number 2 here. Don't count Soundbite out quite yet. As you can see, it can be a little bit rough to figure out where you are. You might only get one good sign. So a 3,400 some odd point difference is not insurmountable.
For all we know, that could have been the easiest round of the seed.
Yeah, exactly. So it could come down to a lot of lucky guessing with some geography and whatnot, and another road, and they're both heading south.
Yep, they are. And this is a bit more of a reddish dirt, but it's still sort of like, I want to call it a light red. So this is more typical for like Western Australia or something over there, still not too far north. And I don't know, the problem you have with these rural locations, as Bombadil is looking at a card there, that did say Albany, if I'm not
Yep,
mistaken.
it did.
And
And A55 for
yep, in this case, 55 kilometers to Albany. But so essentially, they've both known, well, they could know. Obviously, the A itself is not the best clue because if you have no idea where you are, obviously, there's a lot of towns and cities that could start with A, but
definitely.
at least he knows the distance to that town.
Yep. Yeah, and so they kind of have two pieces to the puzzle. If they could put those together, that would help. A J to the north, 125.
Yep, both of them saw that.
Bombadil did the same thing he did in round one. He went south for a little, like maybe only about 20 seconds, and then turned around and then headed north for the rest of his time.
Yeah, that can be a good strategy that you can use to just like look at the beginning and be like, okay, this looks like the better direction, so I want to go there for longer, but let me check out the other direction first for like 20, 30, 40 seconds, just to see if there's anything there. And if there's not, then I'll go back and try the other direction.
Yeah, soundbite with a small sign. Didn't really seem to get anything off of it, though.
I think it was just a map of Australia, but all of Australia. So,
yeah, like some kind of company agricultural logo. Not really. I give him a whole lot. So I definitely think we're lucky that they've got this seed in Division 5 because they do got the time to travel these roads. In Division 1, it might be a little bit rougher. We're up road, so there is quite a ways to the north. There is a crossroad they can use if they ever get to that point in their pinpointing. But still looking for...
I have my doubts.
Yeah. We're still looking for a road number or some towns they can base off of other than Albany, but neither of them seem to know what that is. And
well, Soundbite hasn't seen Albany yet.
Yeah, just
but he does seem to have a pretty good grasp on the landscape. And as far as I remember, like from Map Battle League, like as well, I think Soundbite has some kind of connection to Australia. I don't know if he's been there a couple of times, but he liked to choose Australian maps. So I think it's safe to assume that he has, well, he knows probably more about the country than Bombadil.
We'll see. Both of them looking in the western half of the country, which... Oh, here's a sign for Soundbite. There we go. South Coast Highway upgrade. Well, that'll help him out quite a bit.
And from this point onwards, I think well, he's now looking in the wrong state again, but
east.
with that, he should have enough information to be able to pinpoint it. He does have like, the A and the J city. So while they do obviously appear a lot of times throughout the country, if you've narrowed it down to the South Coast, a particular state, find two cities that roughly match distance-wise. You could be able to figure that out.
Bombadil has now hit old coverage and is not enjoying that. Now he will return to his waypoint in the south and continue that way. But as we know, it'll take him a lot longer to get to anything of value because Soundbite went south the whole way and only got one sign. So,
yep.
And I think he's assuming the A is Adelaide, which
it's
not a bad. It's
a reasonable assumption, but
there's Albany.
Not true.
Ooh, that last minute adjustment.
Yep.
There's a couple J cities over there, so maybe he's using that. And he pieced together maybe Albany.
And now if only he knew which of the J cities it was.
Yeah.
Click. Make a click. Click there. That's closer.
There we go. 17 miles. Not bad at all. 4,796. And there is the turnaround. Bombadil on the right half of the country, on the western side, but way too far north, 387. So tables reversing in this one, Calamity.
Yep. Good round. Decent round for Soundbite. They both pretty much had the same information there. Actually, Bombadil had the better information even with Albany on that vehicle. So, yeah, just, I guess, a lack of practice, not knowing Albany. Because that is a city that is, while it may not be like the biggest city, it's probably in the area that it is in, it is the biggest city.
Yeah, that southwestern coast, not a whole lot to look at over there besides Perth. We'll jump into round number 3 and have a look at their total scores. And yeah, it is now Soundbite with the 970 or so point lead over Bombadil. So, and our third straight road in the middle of nowhere calamity. So maybe this one will flip back again.
Yep. But this time we have a more of a darker red ground, indicating a more northern location.
There's a TT for Soundbite, so
yeah, that is probably out of all of the ones that is the most obvious one because it's referring to Tai Tree, which is along the highway in the middle of the country, sort of like I'm gonna say halfway between. Well, it's nowhere near halfway, but it's a bit up from Alice Springs, and I think it might be the only one that's marked as TT.
Yeah, it looks like he is looking for some large cities that stand out that might have a T in it, but not quite sure where to look. And oh, there it is. There's a T tree. So right away, yeah, I think maybe round 1 was a bit of a fluke for Soundbite. It looks like his Australia knowledge is starting to come into play here. Pinpointing still a bit of a tricky thing for him, but he definitely seems to be able to pick out some roads and is familiar with a couple town names at least.
No, he wasn't really familiar with any of the town names we've had so far. He still had to look for all of them, but he did find them.
Yeah, I would definitely say his region knowledge is maybe quite good. He's like, well, we're somewhere here, and then he can kind of play with his time a bit to hone in on where he might be through process of elimination. Yeah, Bombadil, again, good intuition. Maybe this highway in the middle of nowhere, but too far south as of now.
Yep. Again, they've gone opposite directions.
I think Bombadil has gone north 3 out of 3, and Soundbite has gone south 3 out of 3. So they seem to favor that. I mean, it's some kind of method to the madness. I don't think there's really any way to justify either one. It's just some players, I always go south or I always go north. Helps me keep myself orientated.
I think there's actually a tendency to whether you start in the direction that you face at the beginning or if you start in the opposite way.
I see. Yeah, especially on empty highways, I tend to turn around. There's a go, Tennant Creek.
Tennant Creek, yeah.
In a spot because if we're in the middle of an empty road, the car did come from somewhere, and just maybe I can click fast enough to get back to it. Who knows how far away where it's going is, but
I feel like on an empty highway or something like that, it usually doesn't really matter, but it is sort of valid in when you're on like a mountain road or any kind of very rural road that looks like essentially just a dirt road somewhere. Then it probably is a good idea to just go where the car came from.
He's got Tennant Creek, something he can definitely spot.
Yeah, it is up there, right there on his map, right next to his mouse.
Stands out quite well, but not quite able to catch it. Slowly going to work his way north. I think he really just gives up on a road really fast. In the meantime, Soundbite has kind of honed in on Tennant Creek himself through some means. I think he's maybe
does also
how far Petrie to the south is.
Bombadil does also just check the same road like 4 times, which is not ideal.
Definitely can cut down on some time usage if you just stick with it. Make sure you do a thorough job of checking a road, even if it is a fast, thorough job, rather than going returning to the same thing 3 times.
That is something I've also found myself guilty of on occasion, where I just look for it through the same areas again and again while searching for a city. And I feel like he's just given up, I guess, on
Yeah.
this round.
602 points for him. He'll guess a little bit early, but Soundbite will spend the last few seconds trying to pinpoint where he might be, and that will really serve him well. 652 yards off, 4,995. A very good job trying to pinpoint on that empty road there from Soundbite. And yeah, Bombadil seeing lots of good signs, just a bit too fast in the map and just misses it again.
Yeah, I think again Bombadil actually had the better signs. I mean, I don't remember if he did see a T3, well, a TT sign. But even if he didn't, like Tennant Creek, you saw how easily visible it is on the map, so really should have been able to find that.
Yeah, I think that was even more visible than T-Tree was, so definitely not too bad. And yeah, Soundbite working off of T-Tree was able to just use that distance to judge where he was despite not seeing Tennant Creek at all. Well, we'll get into our next round, round number 4, and there is quite a big lead for Soundbite. I think we are over the 5,000 point difference now, so it will take a pretty big miracle for Bombadil to turn this one around. But an urban location, finally. A bit of a chance to relax, maybe actually read some signs, see a town name you recognize.
If you haven't practiced enough, then a city is not a reason to relax in Australia.
Especially if you're in a suburb, that's for sure.
Bombadil seems to believe it is Melbourne. Not quite sure what he saw that made him think that. I'm not saying it's wrong, I just don't really know why he zoomed in on that.
There was a phone number, but I don't think it really had an area code that would have been distinct enough.
It did have an area code, which was 03. To be perfectly honest, I don't remember what that is. It could be Melbourne.
Yeah, that was a...
Well, it obviously wouldn't be Melbourne. If anything, it would be the state of Victoria. Let me just quickly look that up.
Yeah, put that knowledge out of your mind very fast as we move into the next week.
I never knew that in the first place.
Okay.
I looked at it once, but not to the point where I remembered it.
Yeah, lots of local signs, but nothing really to help out. Working in very different directions. Some small street signs with some neighborhood names on it, maybe for Soundbite, but not really sure what to do with those quite yet.
Yeah, 03 is actually Victoria and Tasmania, so reasonable assumption to think we're in Melbourne.
There we go. A little bit of a road map, but no actual like major road numbers, just lots of little towns and roads. The most helpful of things to find. And we're seeing lots of local small information, Calamity, but no clear indication yet what city exactly we are in. There we go. The 62.
Yeah, I think at this point they've both traveled enough that they should know that it's one of the big cities.
Yeah.
And probably in some kind of suburb. So with the information that Bombadil has, if he does know the area codes, then it's probably pretty safe to assume we're in Melbourne.
Yep, and there's Croydon. All of these district names coming from England, and Soundbite's intuition is pointing him towards Perth, and we could be in for a very interesting round 5 here, Calamity.
Yeah, he still does have 2 minutes ahead of him, so
he does. I'll give him that, but I'm kind of hoping he doesn't guess Melbourne. Sorry, but I'm a commentator. I just want a good matchup and making it come down to the final round. Man, with some big swings, that'll definitely make for a good game. Sorry, Soundbite.
Yeah, Bombadil's trying to pinpoint where exactly he is, but so far it doesn't seem like he's had very much success finding any of the particular roads.
They are quite small. I don't think he has a major road. There is the 62.
Yeah, it was also a sign that just said like, "Hey, you 62 that way towards Croydon." It doesn't really tell you if you're like a kilometer or 10 kilometers away from it.
So he's got quite the big area to search still, try to find these neighborhood roads.
It would be an idea. I don't know if he's ever done it because I'm seeing a lot of like garbage bins out here to just try and see if you can spot what it says on one of them to get some sort of confirmation on the right suburb.
Yeah, they tend to have the municipality
Hmm.
name on them.
I am seeing though he is in Kilsif, which he saw on a different kind of sign earlier, so he is at least in the right area.
45 seconds to go. And yeah, unfortunately, Soundbite is running out of time to confirm what city he's in. I think he's just more off just making a guess. And he is using those zoom buttons quite a bit. There's Croydon for him, and I mean, knowing it's a suburb is one thing, but then maybe not recognizing that Perth is not the city you should be looking in, and he will make a last-second adjustment. That sign, ooh, that sign really does point out. He's like, wait a minute, that's not Perth, that is Melbourne. Sounds familiar, maybe from Battle League.
But I did mention, I think it was Mount Dandenong. Dandenong is a suburb that is relatively big in Melbourne, so maybe that's what made him. Yes, even closer than Bombadil at the end.
I was about to say, I didn't want to interrupt you, but that last-second adjustment just starts throwing down pins and actually gets Bombadil by 9 points, who spent about 3 minutes trying to pinpoint this one. And just that local knowledge coming into play for Soundbite, 4,995 again, which instead of making it a very interesting round 5, Calamity pretty much seals the deal 1 round early.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, a bit unlucky there for Bombadil, I guess, in the sense that Soundbite just in the last few seconds. If he had half a minute less, it would have been very open again. But with this, Soundbite's already won. And yeah, Bombadil just has to look to maybe get a decent last round.
Indeed. Well, let's get into this final round and just see what it has in store for us. And yeah, another red, dry, empty road.
This seems awfully familiar.
Yeah, it seems awfully familiar. And they both head north this time. There's maybe a curve in the road they can sort of spot in the horizon. That might be what they're shooting for. Ever so slight. And it may not actually be a curve.
Nope.
It looked like there might be one, but as they get further along, it doesn't materialize yet.
There probably is a curve at some point.
Oh yeah, I would assume. Yeah. I wonder what is the longest straight road in the world.
That's a fantastic sound for Soundbite.
Yeah.
Let me just look that up. I think it heavily depends on your definition of the word straight.
True.
But apparently the Guinness World Record for the longest straight road goes to Highway 10 in Saudi Arabia.
Interesting. Would have guessed it would have been Australia, but maybe it's not. Just the longest roads might be in Australia, but not straight. And we've got Tennant Creek and Alice Spring on our sign here, and Tennant Creek was pretty much where we were in round number 3. So these two immediately both jump to that same highway. And a bit of a comforting round 5 to at least know, hey, I can sort of know where I am in this one. Always Australia nice when 2 rounds are close together.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily nice if you want to make up points, but
true.
Yeah, Australia has the 5th longest road, according to a random website.
Oh, interesting. I would have guessed they were much longer, but
it's still 190 kilometers.
And now it's going to be just looking for this crossroad, Munkarta, the direction off of that. That's about it, in 2.5 minutes to do it. I don't know what else they can find. Bombadil will head off looking for better information. And Soundbite taking the approach to the slow, methodical scroll of this Stewart Highway, looking for a road could take him where he might need to go is a better bet. There's a crossroad right there. Quite a few of them. Probably better to try to find the small town, but I doubt that will be easy to spot on a map. It might not even show up. That's the thing about them. A white town name, not even a green town sign. Doesn't have me feeling very confident.
Yeah. It looks like Bombadil at least will get a decent score to finish it off.
Yeah, except for one disastrous round in round number 1. Soundbite has put on a bit of a kind of clinic in Division 5 for Australia. Really good instincts, knowing some regions and geography. And he will miss out on an ace, so he'll pinpointing just a little bit off, 4,997. But I don't think you really blame him, Calamity, given that he's had a couple wide open straight highways to try to pinpoint on, and he's gotten within a couple 100 yards each time of that.
Yeah, this one was actually more doable than the rest, but well, I don't think he's gonna care too much.
Yeah, a very nice score. We'll take a look at his total score, 19,960. And just one really weird round out of the mix. Bombadil, though, he'll be able to pinpoint that one 60 yards away, but it's an ace too late, 14,596 for him, so quite a big gap in this one. And I think maybe even maybe even 19,000 would not have been enough for a bonus point in this one. I'm not really sure though, Calamity.
Let me look it up for you. No, it would not have been enough. You would have needed 21,277 was a Penguin in 5th who got the last bonus point.
Yeah, so Soundbite definitely lucky that Bombadil dropped a couple rounds in that one. Yeah, so I think we talked about at the beginning of the show that, you know, you can sometimes like those open highways because you got assigned to a town, and that's not too bad. And we did get a few of those here. Only one urban location in Melbourne. But definitely pinpointable. Just one tough round for Soundbite and about 2 horrible rounds for Bombadil, costing the points, but it will be Soundbite who walks away with everything. Well, thank you all for watching. I think that'll wrap up our coverage of Australia. We are shifting to our US or Canadian state/province map next. We'll be in Idaho, and hopefully we'll get some nice mountain scenery, a big difference from the desert scenery here in Australia. And so we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye.